Welcome to today's video, where we dive into the dark side of gaming in 2024. While the year has brought us some incredible titles, not every game has lived up to the hype. In this video, we'll be exploring the worst performing games of the year. Those that left players disappointed, frustrated, or downright angry. From broken mechanics to underwhelming graphics, these games had high expectations, but fell far short. So grab your controller, and maybe some tissues, as we look at the biggest flops of 2024. So the 10th game that sucked in 2024 on our list is Senua's Saga, Hellblade II. Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice marked a major breakthrough in video game visuals and audio design, earning numerous awards and leading to the announcement of a sequel in 2019. By then, developer Ninja Theory had been acquired by Microsoft, which made the follow-up exclusive to the Xbox Series X and S. With a significantly larger budget and more resources, expectations were high. However, upon its release, the game failed to generate much excitement. Its exclusivity to one of Microsoft's least successful consoles likely contributed to this, as did its relatively short 7 to 8 hour playtime at a $50 price point. According to Circana, a US-based analytics firm, the game ranked only 21st in Xbox console sales during its launch month. On Game Pass, it fared slightly better, coming in at 12th for overall player count during the same period. And the 9th game that sucked in 2024 is Tales of Kenzera Zao. It's painful to include Tales of Kenzera on a list like this, especially given the clear passion behind it and its exploration of Bantu culture and mythology, an aspect rarely represented in video games. This makes its lack of success even more difficult to digest. As a Metroidvania, it entered an already saturated indie game market, yet still managed to receive decent reviews. Despite being priced lower than many competitors, it failed to hit the sales targets that developer Surgent Studios had hoped for. Just 3 months after the game's release, news emerged that the studio had laid off over a dozen employees. With the studio's LinkedIn listing between 11 to 50 employees, this represented a significant portion of their workforce. And the 8th game that sucked in 2024 on our list is Alone in the Dark. Once a cornerstone of the survival horror genre, Alone in the Dark has struggled to make a successful return multiple times. Hopes were high for the latest revival, but those expectations quickly faded. Released in March 2024, this remake of the original featured David Harbour and Jodie Comer investigating a missing persons case that soon spirals into an eldritch horror. While its dark atmosphere was praised, most other aspects of the game received lukewarm reviews. Sales too were disappointing, falling short of what publisher THQ Nordic's parent company Embracer Group had anticipated. As a result, in June 2024, the poor sales ultimately led to the closure of developer Pieces Interactive. And on number 7, we have Dustborn. Dustborn, set in a 2030 alternate reality version of the US, follows a touring band with the lead character Pax, who has the ability to turn her words into powerful attacks. Despite its intriguing premise, the game received mixed reviews, with many critics pointing out that the combat quickly became repetitive and that the story didn't offer enough depth to justify its length. Although official sales figures have not been disclosed, its performance on Steam was notably poor, peaking at just 83 concurrent players, a starkly low number for a $30 game. Additionally, the game's strong left-wing political themes seemed to alienate some players, leading to significant online backlash and harassment directed at developer Red Thread Games. Regardless of its political stance, however, Dustborn has struggled to make an impact. And on number 6, we have Foamstars. In February 2024, Toy Logic and Square Enix released Foamstars, a multiplayer game reminiscent of Splatoon. However, it quickly faded into obscurity. While not a bad game, it offered a rather shallow experience that struggled to establish its identity. Despite being available for free to PS Plus subscribers at launch, the player base plummeted by an astounding 95% just 2 months after release. The timing of Helldivers 2's launch around the same period certainly didn't help its cause. Although the game has continued to receive content updates, these efforts have failed to attract more players, leading Foamstars to transition to a free-to-play model in October 2024. And the fifth game that sucked in 2024 is Star Wars Outlaws. Ubisoft has been facing a downward trend in recent years, and even the Star Wars brand couldn't reverse its fortunes. Released in late August, Outlaws received mid-70s ratings across various platforms, with many gameplay elements considered solid but outdated. Despite these reviews, player feedback has been far less enthusiastic, and sales have been sluggish. This led JP Morgan to revise its sales projections for the game, cutting its forecast by 2 million units through March 2025. As a result, Ubisoft's stock price plummeted to its lowest level in a decade. The game clearly didn't live up to the publisher's expectations, especially considering that Outlaws was backed by the largest marketing campaign in Ubisoft's history. And on number 4, we have Skull and Bones. Another major flop for Ubisoft, Skull and Bones, spent a decade in development and launched to little excitement. Drawing inspiration from the ship battles in Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, the game reportedly cost around $200 million to make over that long development period. Unfortunately, it arrived too late to capture interest, with several features failing to resonate with players. The $70 price tag, the live service model, the fact that it offered less than its inspiration, and Ubisoft's claim of it being a quadruple A title all contributed to its lackluster reception. Since its release, the game has been heavily discounted in both physical and digital stores. While Ubisoft has yet to disclose sales figures, it's clear they are far from encouraging. And on number 3, we have Borderlands. Although it's technically a movie based on a video game rather than a game itself, the failure of Borderlands is too significant to overlook. From the moment the casting choices were revealed, fans were skeptical, and things only seemed to worsen with reshoots and underwhelming trailers. When the film finally hit theaters, it confirmed everyone's worst fears. With a dismal 10% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, it was panned for almost every aspect, with some critics even going as far as to call it worse than the infamous 1990s live-action Super Mario Bros. Movie. Not only was it a critical disaster, but it also bombed financially. Despite a hefty production budget of $110 to $120 million, it managed to pull in just $31 million worldwide. And the second game that sucked in 2024 is Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. A team-based Suicide Squad game from the studio behind the Arkham series seemed like it should have been a surefire hit. Instead, a slew of unwanted live service features derailed its potential. Even before its release, it was clear that Warner Bros. Was trying to capitalize on trends. But the gameplay turned out to be repetitive and uninspired, which was reflected in both reviews and sales. While the company never disclosed exact sales numbers, it did acknowledge that the game led to a staggering $200 million loss. To make matters worse, developer Rocksteady faced layoffs, with the underperformance of Kill the Justice League directly cited as the reason. And the last game on our list that sucked in 2024 is Concord. If you've been following the news about Concord, its spot at number 1 on this list likely won't come as a surprise. The first-person hero shooter spent nearly 8 years in development, but by the time it launched, it felt painfully outdated compared to other often free-to-play titles in the genre. Even worse, Concord struggled to attract a player base, with reviews highlighting its lack of originality and mediocre execution. Although developer Firewalk Studios had planned to keep the game alive with free updates, new characters, and maps, the game never had the chance to build momentum. The player count was so low that Sony pulled it offline just 2 weeks after launch, offering full refunds to all players. Are there any other video games from 2024 that you think sucked? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting gaming content.